The news here in the UK and around the world has been dominated by the release of the Chilcot report yesterday, which delivered a damning verdict on the decision by the former British Prime Minister to commit troops to the US-led invasion of Iraq in 2003. I'll be arguing tonight that following the report, Tony Blair now stands condemned in front of the whole world and must be punished for his crimes. Words of condemnation aren't enough. I and millions of others want to see Tony Blair arrested, put in chains, publicly humiliated, and stuck in solitary confinement for the rest of his life. And it's not just Tony Blair who stands condemned today, but the entire political, intelligence, and media establishment that took this country into the Iraq War. Whether you agree or disagree with me, you can call me on +44 208 601 45 55 to share your views. You can also SMS me on +44 78 0000 80 66, or you can email me at comments@presstv.co.uk. Now, just a few words on our main topic tonight. The Iraq War was, without doubt, the most disgraceful episode that this country involved itself in during my lifetime. It was based on a lie about the threat posed by Saddam Hussein. It devastated Iraq, tearing apart the fabric of its society and directly causing a civil war. It created an ungoverned space for terrorist groups like Al-Qaeda and later ISIL to fill. It sowed the seeds of sectarian hatred. It increased regional rivalries, and it helped further destabilize Syria. We don't know how many people the Iraq invasion and its consequences killed, but it's safe to say that it killed at least hundreds of thousands, probably more, who wouldn't have died had Iraq not been invaded. And millions were forced to flee their homes who wouldn't have had to flee their homes had Iraq not been invaded. And all this blood and misery is on the hands of people like Tony Blair, Jack Straw, his foreign minister, John Scarlett of MI6, Blair's spin doctor Alistair Campbell, and also on the mainstream media such as the BBC, which beat the drums of war. The Iraq War also led to several other things, such as the rise of politically motivated terrorism directed against the West, as we saw on July the 7th, 2005, the radicalization of a generation of young British Muslims, and a complete breakdown of trust between vast swathes of the electorate and the political class. We knew it all along, but yesterday's Chilcot report made several key points. Firstly, the UK chose to join the Iraq invasion before peaceful options had been exhausted, so military action was not a last resort. Secondly, Blair deliberately exaggerated the threat posed by Saddam Hussein. Thirdly, Tony Blair wrote to George Bush 8 months before the Iraq invasion to offer his unqualified backing for war, saying, "I will be with you, whatever." Fourthly, Britain's intelligence agencies produced flawed information. Fifthly, Blair ignored warnings on what would happen in Iraq after invasion, especially warnings that Iraq could degenerate into civil war. And finally, the report said the government had no post-invasion strategy. So today, the British public, the majority of whom have always opposed the Iraq War, stands vindicated. The Stop the War Coalition and Jeremy Corbyn stand vindicated, while the warmongers and criminals, many of whom are now trying to unseat Jeremy Corbyn, are disgraced. Finally, I remember the Iraq War build-up very well, and everything that came to pass post-invasion was clearly predicted pre-invasion. That includes the doubts about WMD intelligence, the fact that there would be an insurgency, the inevitability that Iraqis would turn on each other, the prospect of regional powers being drawn in, and the likelihood that terror groups would fill the power vacuum. All this was clearly predicted, and all those politicians who voted for war and all those commentators who advocated it were clearly warned. So never let them tell you they took an honest decision based on the best information they had at the time. No, they willfully ignored all the warnings and expert opinion to pursue an unprovoked military invasion that devastated a country and opened the gates of hell. Tony Blair was the ringleader, but every one of those MPs who voted for war has serious blood on their hands.